6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Dulmin Samrasinghe, read by Soundithavam. Sri Lanka and Canada are to further strengthen bilateral relations. The central bank says Sri Lanka's headline inflation is expected to rise to 70%. The Parliament Committee on Public Enterprises recommends a probe into the cancellation of the term tender to purchase gas. The Tourism Minister says Sri Lanka will hold roadshows in key Indian cities to attract more visitors. The STF seizes turmeric worth more than 10 million rupees. In news overseas, the WHO says the global coronavirus cases are up nearly 30% over the past 2 weeks. And in sports, England gets off to a winning start at the Euro 2022 as they beat Austria in front of a record crowd. The Canadian High Commissioner David Mackinnon has called on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The meeting took place this afternoon at the President's house in Colombo. They held discussions on further strengthening bilateral relations and several other important issues. The Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, says Sri Lanka's headline inflation is expected to rise to 70% in the coming months from the current level of 50%. His comments came during a media briefing convened in Colombo to announce the central bank's fifth monetary policy review for the year 2022. He said the major concern and priority from the central bank's point of view is to address inflation and inflation expectations going forward and to bring it down to a reasonable level as soon as possible. Dr. Veerasinghe said the first and hardest hit would be the poor and vulnerable. He said if inflation goes beyond control to a hyperinflation situation, no one will be able to continue businesses. The court, chaired by MP Professor Charita Herath, recommended that an investigation be conducted through the Auditor General's Department on the cancellation of the term tender, which had been approved by the Cabinet to buy gas from Siam Gas at $96 per metric ton and opting to buy 100,000 metric tons of gas at a cost of $129 per metric ton from an Oman company. This recommendation was given on Tuesday when Litro Gas Lanka Limited, Litro Gas Terminal Lanka Private Limited and the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation were summoned before COP to implement the orders given by the previous Committee on Public Enterprises and to discuss the current performance. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The Tourism Minister Hareen Fernando says Sri Lanka will hold roadshows in 5 key Indian cities to attract more visitors from its populous northern neighbour in a bid to bring more foreign exchange into the island. Despite the turmoil, Sri Lanka has seen a steady trickle of 61,951 Indian tourists, the most from any foreign country, in the first 5 months of this year, and the government is keen to bring in more Indians. Minister Fernando said Sri Lanka must have tourism revenue if it is to emerge from this crisis. He said the Tourism Ministry will hold roadshows in 5 major Indian cities, seeking to draw business and leisure travellers besides destination weddings. 2 suspects have been arrested with the consignment of foreign cigarettes, 720 bottles of foreign liquor, and 4,700 kilograms of turmeric worth more than 10 million rupees during a raid by the STF in Kiribathgoda. The STF said they arrested 2 suspects while transporting 40,000 sticks of illegally imported cigarettes in Kiribathgoda yesterday. The STF searched a house in Hunupitiya in Vattala after questioning the suspects who are from Kotmale. Thereafter, they recovered 720 bottles of foreign liquor and 4,700 kilograms of turmeric believed to have been smuggled into the country. It was revealed at the Committee on Public Accounts that the purchase of tyres and other spare parts for the Sri Lanka Transport Board buses is difficult in the current competitive market due to the increase in prices. This was revealed when the Committee on Public Accounts met on Tuesday under the chairmanship of MP Professor Tissa Vitarana to examine the plans developed under the Ministry of Transport and Highways to provide efficient transport services to the general public under the current economic crisis in Sri Lanka. The committee also discussed about providing diesel to private buses through filling stations belonging to the SLTB depots. The officials pointed out that some private buses are getting diesel from these fuel stations and selling it at a higher price. They stated that it is cheaper for bus owners to sell diesel at a higher price than to run buses on the route. Accordingly, the committee pointed out that this situation should be controlled and the public should be prevented from being inconvenienced, and a system should be developed to check whether the buses that pump fuel from the depot filling stations are running. Especially the possibility of applying GPS technology for buses was discussed. And that concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The World Food Programme in its latest report said that 6.26 million people in Sri Lanka are food insecure, and it targets 3 million people to receive emergency food, nutrition and school meals until December. It said 3 in 10 households, or 6.26 million people, are food insecure, of which 65,600 are severely food insecure. 200,000 households are using emergency livelihood coping strategies. And that came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight, the National Water Supply and Drainage Board said the water supply to Colombo 12, 13, 14 and 15 was interrupted due to a water supply pipeline rupture. They said the water supply will be on low pressure to Colombo 1. The Water Board said repair work is in progress and the water supply is expected to be restored by 6 a.m. tomorrow, and came to you in Watchlight. On to a bulletin of world news making headlines. The WHO says the global coronavirus cases are up nearly 30% over the past 2 weeks. South Korea's daily coronavirus cases double in a week, and a new UK Prime Minister will be in place in time for the party conference. The World Health Organization warns coronavirus infections have surged and is calling for action to curb cases. At a regular news conference on Wednesday, the WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said globally reported cases per week have risen nearly 30% over the past 2 weeks. He pointed out that the Omicron subvariants BA4 and BA5 have become dominant in Europe and America. South Korea's daily coronavirus cases have nearly doubled from a week ago after a declining trend in June. Health officials confirmed 18,511 new cases on Wednesday, about twice the figure from a week earlier. The country had been seeing cases count fall, with daily cases under 10,000 on most days last month. But officials think infections are rising again. Experts believe the recent increase is a result of people becoming more active and easing restrictions. Boris Johnson is to step down as Conservative Party leader after losing the support of his ministers and MPs. A Conservative leadership contest will take place this summer, and a new Prime Minister will be in place in time for the party conference in October. In the meantime, Mr. Johnson will continue as Prime Minister. He had vowed to keep going, following a wave of resignations from the government or his leadership, but has now decided to step down. Back to the headlines of the world news. The WHO says global coronavirus cases are up nearly 30% over the past 2 weeks. South Korea's daily coronavirus cases double in a week, and a new UK Prime Minister will be in place in time for the party conference. That concludes this bulletin of world news, and on to development news. The government seeks competitive bids from investors to set up an aviation training academy in Batticaloa International Airport. The Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation has sought the approval of the Cabinet to invite bids from investors to establish a flight training academy at the Batticaloa International Airport in order to generate revenue. The airport has a total land space of 145.2 hectares, and 75.9 hectares out of this has been retained by the Sri Lanka Air Force to operate its airbase. That came to you in development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
In Euro 2022 news, Beth Mead helped England get off to a winning start at Euro 2022 as they beat Austria in front of a record crowd for a European Women's Championship game at Old Trafford. The Arsenal winger chested down Fran Kirby's lifted pass and deftly touched it over club teammate Manuela Zinberger After just 16 minutes, there was a roar from the majority of the 68,871 in attendance as Meade turned to them passionately with her arms in the air, though they were made to wait anxiously as there was a VAR check for a possible offside. The early goal settled England's nerves and they quickly began to dominate in Manchester. That's sports news. We look at business news next.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Avantage Labs, part of St. Anthony's Industries Group, has launched a timely and value-driven project through the launch of the Avantage Carpool app to support the public ride through the crisis. Avantage Carpool is an app that can be accessed completely free of charge and allows users to publish rides, book rides or do both, including round trips whenever they want in a fast and easy way, and connects them for a convenient travel experience on a single platform. That's business news, economic news up next.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to increase the interest rates of the Standing Deposit Facility rate and the Standing Lending Facility rate. Accordingly, the Standing Deposit Facility rate and the Standing Lending Facility rate will be increased to 14.5% and 15.5%. The decision was announced following a meeting held at the Central Bank yesterday. The board was of the view that a further monetary policy tightening would be necessary to contain any build-up of adverse inflation expectations. That's economic news.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking. LOLC Finance will continue to innovate with the next generation digitalization of financial services, delivering a superior customer experience.
On to the weather report. The Met Department says several spells of showers will occur in the Sabrangama province and in the Nuwara and Kandy districts. A few showers may occur in the Western province and in the Galle and Matara districts. Strong winds about 40 to 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times in the western slopes of the Central Hills and in the southern province. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. Sri Lanka and Canada are to further strengthen bilateral relations. The central bank says Sri Lanka's headline inflation is expected to rise to 70%. The Parliament Committee on Public Enterprises recommends a probe on the cancellation of the term tender to purchase gas. The Tourism Minister says Sri Lanka will hold roadshows in key Indian cities to attract more visitors. The STF seizes turmeric worth more than 10 million rupees. The WHO says global coronavirus cases are up nearly 30% over the past 2 weeks. And England gets off to a winning start at the Euro 2022 as they beat Austria in front of a record crowd. And with that, we conclude this evening's news broadcast.